Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 12, overall 507 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac products as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you. And you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family-run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969. Even before I was born. Yes, I'm old. And I have been a customer of Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership here in Guelph since the year 2000, so 25 years. So Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership is the official sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. I hope everybody is doing well on this. I can't believe it's already Monday, March 10th. Monday, March 10th, 2025. And I have a special guest tonight. This is his first appearance. I've been on his show called the Daily Dive Lacrosse Podcast Show. And his name is Michael Karvelis. I hope I have that right. He is the host of the Daily Dive, a National Lacrosse League podcast. And he's also the host of Mike Sid at First podcast and a contributor with 12 Ounce Sports. And we're going to come on and talk to Michael about his podcasts and also about the National Lacrosse League. Good evening, Michael. Yes. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Mr. Palme?
I am doing well on this Monday, March 10th, 2025, and big day for the National Lacrosse League with the trade deadline and Vancouver making a splash, Calgary and Vancouver making trades, and then the Buffalo Bandits adding a couple of players too as well.
You know what's amazing about the and I'll get to the Buffalo side as well, but what's amazing about the Calgary-Vancouver trade is it's almost like the league said, we know you guys will get this done, but let's just wait till the trade deadline to make it fun. Like, that's what it felt like to me. Well, okay, we're going to do this anyways. I thought we were going to do it this year. This is great.
Absolutely. And I was watching, beside yourself, I always look for Adam Levy. He does a great job following the National Lacrosse League. So I was keeping an eye on what was happening today. And the Toronto Rock started the ball rolling on February 25th with their trade of Nick Rose to Calgary as well.
Yeah, the Nick Rose to Calgary thing. I've talked to someone around the that's familiar with that situation, and it was not surprising to see Rose struggle right off the bat with Calgary. But what they did in front of you and 19,069 others was pretty impressive. And I'm kind of jealous you got to go to a game with 13 more thousand people than I did, but we'll be okay. What Nick Rose with Calgary is, that's amazing. And they had no Dane Dobie in the last game you went to either.
Before we get into all these trades, yeah, Calgary, everybody talks about the Bandits, but even with John Tavares and Kyle Buchanan, you sometimes have to give the other team credit. Calgary outplayed Buffalo in that game, and it really came down to the fourth quarter. It was really close after three, but in the fourth quarter, Calgary outscored Buffalo 7-2. Calgary went 3 for 5 on the power play, Buffalo 0 for 3, and every time Buffalo tried to get back into the game, Calgary basically knocked them out with a knockout punch. And Dixon, I think, had 8 points. Jesse King had 10 points, and Nick Rose was solid. And you know what? Holding the Bandits to 11 goals at the KeyBank Center. I think that's a pretty good night. I think Nick Rose had 43 saves, but this Calgary team might be a little bit different with Nick Rose having that veteran present in net, and they're fighting for their playoff lives. Calgary came into this game 6-6, so this was a huge win for them. And to me, this was probably the best game they've played all year from what I've seen.
Yeah, of course. And as for Nick Rose in that game, he was asked after the game with Ashley Docking. I think Curtis Dixon might have been the one staying there with him, but he was like, "Yo, shout out to the team for helping me exercise my own demons at this place." Like, even he acknowledged that it was tough for him in Buffalo sometimes, but this, like you said, Calgary is dangerous, and like you said, the fact that Jesse King can always do that, but has been letting Dane Dobbie do his thing this year. This team has got weapons everywhere, and you add a sneakily good defense that doesn't get enough credit. If Nick Rose is the missing piece, be sure to see it on full display.
And Dixon had 6 goals in this game. He was just outstanding, and they had an answer every time for Buffalo. Buffalo got off to a good start in this game, 2-0, 5-3, 6-5, but Calgary just responded every time. They didn't panic, because most teams, when they fall behind 2-0 early in the KeyBank Center, it snowballs. And basically what happened was the Bandits never got into a big run. I think the most goals the Bandits scored in a row in this game, I think, was 2. And sometimes you see the Bandits scoring 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row, but there was no runs. And you got to Calgary. That was a huge game for them as well. Since we got you on here too, Michael, what are your thoughts on Christian Blanco going to Vancouver, and what does he add to that Vancouver Warriors team?
This is an interesting question, because on the surface it's like, oh, instant contender. But then you look at Aiden Walsh this season, who the Vancouver Warriors, I guess now their backup is, if he didn't get moved yet. It's like Aiden Walsh this season had a 78 save percentage. Like, that's usually pretty good for most teams. The thing that's different with Vancouver that might help them even more so, 2 things. One is familiarity. Kurt Malofsky knows what Del Bianco likes and how to coach his defense around it. The second thing is the offense. This season, Aiden Walsh, let me just pull this up for 2 seconds. Aiden Walsh has 3 assists. Del Bianco has it 10 plus every year, it feels like. And so that alone, their transition might get a lot more amazing, and that might be the step the goaltending could take that it maybe wasn't already taking so far.
Because I've only been following this league for 3 years now, and I love it.
Same.
But the thing with goaltending, it's huge, and it's important to have that goaltending, because that really can make a difference. And Vancouver right now is only 5-7, but they're in the hunt. I only see really 3 teams, Michael, that are really out of it, and that would be Las Vegas, Albany, and the Toronto Rock. But the Rock are coming off an impressive win at Halifax, so the Rock could be a spoiler at the end of this season. But Vancouver is in it, along with Philadelphia and a number of other teams. There's so much parity in this league, and there's no such thing. I said this to John Tavares. There's no such thing as a gimme game in this league, no matter what the team's records are.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Vancouver, that you mentioned them having that goalie and have maybe being still in it. I think that now, I think their offense has so much potential to be awesome, but it hasn't been this season. But maybe, like I said before, the transition, maybe adding Del Bianco to kind of get the ball out quick out of his stick. Maybe that's what the offense has needed the entire time, just to get the defense off the floor even quicker than before. Now, like I said, not saying Aiden Walsh hasn't been great, but when Del Bianco's the alternative, you have to take at least one step up. So that could be, I think Vancouver, they have to make the playoffs now. There's no way they don't.
Absolutely. And as for the Buffalo Bandits, they did add a couple of players today, including Ron John. I guess they got from, Ottawa?
Yeah, and then Kyle Matisse as well.
And what's your thoughts on those 2 guys, and what can they bring to the Buffalo Bandits?
Ron John, definitely the gritty, water bug, another Kyle Buchanan, basically. But I really like the Kyle Matisse thing, because he is so big, and I don't know if he plays a ton of shifts with them because of obviously Dane Smith being on that side of the ball as well. But seeing Kyle Matisse just as your luxury offensive piece, you can't beat it, right? Like he's going to make plays. He's not going to make any dumb plays, that's for sure. I think Kyle Matisse, I know he's a big name, but he still might end up being an underrated trade asset because of Del Bianco, because of Nick Rose, because of even James Barkley to San Diego. Like, you have a guy who is an unsung hero in Ottawa and could be really awesome with the Bandits.
And I see the Bandits shipped out Sam LaRue as well to Ottawa. And Ron John, I noticed this. He's from nearby Angola, New York. So they've got a Western New York, another Western New York native on that team, along with Clay Scanlon.
Yeah, it's funny about Sam LaRue. So many times, it's like he was a healthy scratch. Like, he's the ultimate teammate, it feels like. Like, obviously, like I said before, Bandits are so stacked, they can cut anybody any night and still be dominant. But Sam LaRue is a guy, he hasn't been unlocked yet. And so what have they been hiding? Or what can, like I said, remember when the Bandits had Connor Fields? I mean, I don't remember that personally, but I know it happened. And it's like, how on earth did somebody get to unlock him? So, not saying Sam LaRue is Connor Fields, but can Sam LaRue be kind of like at least have some awesome nights? He might. Bandits kept him on the roster for a reason.
And there's so much depth on that team. And you know what? I feel this was a good move because I feel he's going to develop more playing in Ottawa than he is in Buffalo. And that shows you how good this Bandits organization is, because they have a lot of stars on this team, but they also put the team first mentality. Even when they lose, nobody blames anybody for the loss. Like, some fans are like, oh, Matt Vince. But as John Tavares says, we win as a team and we lose as a team.
You know, so you were in the press conference for that game afterwards, right?
Yes, yeah. I got to speak to John Tavares and Kyle Buchanan.
That's awesome. See, as a person who hasn't had the complete eyes on that game, I have to wonder, because I noticed in this box score that, what's his name, Steve Priolo got like a little bit snippy at the end of it.
Yeah, he got a 10-minute misconduct. He got a 10-minute.
I got to ask you, because on my show today on Daily Dive, I told people, it's like, did the Bandits low-key need a punch in the mouth? Like, they had beaten some good teams, but they kept on winning despite like having not like early in the season they were blowing teams out. So is it possible this punch in the gut? Are they going to walk into Calgary and stomp them out? Like, that's a possibility in my opinion.
I felt obviously John Tavares doesn't want them getting complacent. They take one game at a time approach, and that's how the guys say it to me, and that's what Tavares said. But John felt in the press conference they came into this game in good shape and that, but Calgary just it was just one bad quarter. The Bandits, unfortunately, in the fourth quarter, a lot of miscues defensively and too many penalties, and Calgary took advantage of it, and that was the difference in the game. And I felt Nick Rose was a little bit stronger in net than Matt Vince, and Calgary got good production from Dixon, 6 goals. You score 6 goals in any National Lacrosse League game or any league in that matter, you're going to win games. And everybody contributed. They never backed down from the Bandits. Like, it was still up for grabs going into the fourth quarter, and then they just dominated the fourth quarter 7-2, and they just took advantage of the Bandits. And being the back-to-back champs too, you know this too as well, Michael. Every team in the league, no matter what the record is going to be coming after Buffalo. Everybody wants to beat the Bandits, especially at the KeyBank Center. And that's the second consecutive home loss for the Bandits at the KeyBank Center. So yeah. I think that's going to get the team woken up. And they do have probably the best coach in the NL, in my opinion, John Tavares. So I feel this game and that fourth quarter specifically, he's going to use the video footage and get these guys focused on coming out strong for this Saturday night's game against Calgary at the Saddledome at 9:00.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned about like I love that you're giving credit to Calgary, because Bandits own every fourth quarter for at least the 3 years I've been watching the league. Even the league, even the first year that they didn't win it against, was it Colorado? It's like they've owned fourth quarters. So seeing this, you're right, it is film for those guys, but for Calgary, like you said, like for them not to back down shows a lot of other teams that they are ready to compete and that they're not going to, I mean, I'm not saying any team would bow down, but for them not to be scared in that moment shows you they might be better than we all initially thought.
Absolutely. And they did this without Dane Doby. He didn't play in this game. So, you know what I mean? Everybody stuck up their game, and I thought Nick Rose was solid in net, and their special teams did a good job with Buffalo. Buffalo only had 3 power plays, and they went 0 for 3. And that's been another factor with the Bandits this year. As much as they're 9-2 and they've been pretty dominant, even Kyle Buchanan in the post-game conference said they want to get their power play going because everybody thinks they got so much star power that the power play is automatic. They've kind of struggled on it. So that's one area they want to work on too, is getting that power play going in. And they've got to stay out of the box because I felt they took some undisciplined penalties in this game against Calgary, in my opinion.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the undisciplined penalties once again because I was watching the Halifax game against Toronto, a team you feel like Halifax should have beaten. Maybe we think Buffalo should have beaten Calgary, and they probably should have because the game, like you said, was close and they had the better roster technically on paper. But like those penalties, I don't know. Like I feel like the Bandits actually get away with it more than you think they do. Like not you, but I feel like they do some things where it's like, man, they need to understand in those moments. Sometimes it's not the best idea to give a guy what you're thinking. Like sometimes you're not going to be able to overcome that 1-goal fourth quarter deficit like they always do. And I don't think it's going to, will it bite them in the playoffs? Maybe / probably not. But do I think that it's something that they should and will clean up? Yes. And it must be addressed. The difference between good teams and great teams in this league, they're going to address it and they're going to thrive off it. Other teams are just going to keep on being jerks whenever they're down by 2. Like, but you have to clean. I agree. You have to clean up the power play. You have to stop making dumb penalties on your own end as well.
And they recently lost to San Diego at the KeyBank Center, and then next week they went to San Diego and they won. So, as a Bandit fan and media member, I'm optimistic. I feel this is going to be a good wake-up call for this team. And hey, I got to look at it this way too. Last year at this time, after 11 games, the Bandits were 5-6. And actually in jeopardy of missing the playoffs at one point. This year, they're 9-2. But obviously, like I said, I do feel this team's in better shape than they were last year. But John Tavares mentioned this in his post-game conference too. It's his job to make sure this team doesn't peak too soon. And I really think him and Steve Dietrich, their GM and assistant coach, I really feel this game, especially the fourth quarter, is going to be a good teaching lesson for him and the Bandits organization. Sometimes you need a wake-up call. And Michael, I know it's an only 18-game schedule, but lacrosse is like a physical sport like football is. And I feel it's right now at this point of the season in the National Lacrosse League, it's like the dog days of lacrosse, like the dog days of summer for baseball. And I just feel maybe that's what happened in this game. And I really do feel the Bandits are going to learn, and there's a lot of stuff in that fourth quarter they need to learn. Obviously, the Bandits had 3 goals disallowed, 2 of them for crease violations. And I wanted to ask you about this too. What are your thoughts on their crease violations? It just, I find it's really, really strict, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
So from this particular game?
Just overall with the crease violations in the National Lacrosse League. Obviously, they want to protect the goalies and stuff, but sometimes it gets to the point where it's a little silly having like just, I don't know, a shoelace in that brown area.
Yeah, so I'm okay with like the rule itself. What I don't like is especially the last 2 minutes, this happens a lot too. That's the more glaring part of it for me. Is in the last 2 minutes of games, they have to review things, and they'll take sometimes 10 minutes. And it's like, guys, like if it's that close, like, can we just give it up at this point and go with the call? Like I said, I don't mind the crease violations if called correctly. But I also don't like taking 10 minutes every 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. I'm like, oh, gotta get it right. Well, it's like, great. Now I can go get a drink and get a bathroom break, but I've lost my momentum. So like I said, I like the rule, but it's frustrating. I also think white shoes, maybe it shouldn't be. I don't like the white shoes being allowed. If we're going to put that white outline on the crease, I'm getting tired of it, man.
Absolutely. And I'm all for instant replay, but I find sometimes they drag on to 5, 7, 8 minutes. I spoke to Bud Bailey. Bud Bailey is a media Hall of Famer in Buffalo. He's covered the Bandits since 2008, and he loves lacrosse too. He's like an encyclopedia. And his point of view is they want to make sure they get the call right with instant replay, but you don't want to take away the momentum. I just find 5, 6, 7 minutes is too long. For instant replay, I think it should be 1 minute, 60 seconds. After 60 seconds, they can't make a decision, then the call on the field stands, in my opinion.
I wouldn't mind seeing 2 minutes, but I mean, like I said, it can't be past one. It can't be past 2 minutes though. Either way, like it has to be something. Like like there was in the Georgia game, I timed it. It was like 4.5 minutes. But in those 4.5 minutes, fans that were engaged were now quiet. They were getting drinks. They were going to the bathroom. Like those fans, like come on, man. You've lost their interest. Like the game's moving so fast. It's like 5-minute review. Well, hold on now. That's random. That came out of nowhere. And I had Todd LeBranch at this game. I don't know which referees were in Buffalo, but we had Todd LeBranch, who's amazing. It's like, I know Todd, I mean, obviously it's not Todd's fault. The rule lets you take however long you want. But, dude, if y'all can't see it, bro, we can't either. Come on, man. I don't think anybody's going to be mad. What is Pat saying here?
Pat Gregor, who's one of the guys that got me into the National Lacrosse League, along with John Gerkler, the voice of the Buffalo Bandits. Pat's also with the Halifax Thunderbirds and TSN's Game of the Week. He said Steve Dittrich, who's their GM and assistant coach, told the media before the game he felt his team was getting too much respect and they aren't playing as good as the record shows. Ashley mentioned that in their pregame hit. And then Pat's got another comment. 1 minute's too short. I agree with Mike. If you can't make the call in 2 minutes, it's inconclusive. Okay, I said a minute. You guys say 2 minutes. Okay,
it's 2 minutes short. Yeah, that's
okay.
I just think. Question. I was real quick. Go back to the other comment because I feel like what he said is like like you mentioned about the Seals game, like the second one they won, Chris. I want to get your thoughts on this because I've noticed that when they lost the Seals, or when they beat the Seals, it was without Zach Currier. They beat the Rush without Robert Church. They get smoked by the Roughnecks, who have no Dane Doby. The fact that Steve Dietrich says that shows me they're in a better spot mentally than we could ever imagine. Because they know they're still nitpicking it. Like they know, despite having a 9-2 record coming into this game, or 9-1 record coming into this game, they were ready for like something to explode or implode, and that's what happened. So I'm actually glad Steve Dietrich did tell them that, because it shows you have to be like self-analyze. You have to look in the mirror and say, man, we're good, but are we that good? And this team, that's awesome he said that. I love that.
And Michael, too, last year, the Bandits faced a lot of adversity. 5-6. They had some injuries, 5-6. They have faced adversity, and that made them stronger going into the playoffs. This year, this team has had very little adversity other than the 1-goal home loss to San Diego. This Calgary game was probably the worst game I've seen the Bandits play in 3 years covering the team. And Bud Bailey, who's a media Hall of Famer in Buffalo, said the last time they gave up 17 goals was to Albany back in 2023. But it happens. Teams have bad games, and credit, you got to give credit to the Calgary Rednecks. They play really well, and the Bandits have a target on their back. When you're the back-to-back champions, every game you got a target on your back, and this team hasn't faced it in adversity. And you know what? Sometimes you need that in sports. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles this year. They started the season 2-2. Everybody wanted Nick Sirianni fired. They wanted this gone. And the Eagles took a bye week, and they turned their season around, and they won a championship. And I find the Bandits, maybe they need a little adversity to and a wake-up call, because I think this is a wake-up call. 2 straight losses at home, 2 losses in the last 4 games. And sometimes you can get complacent as being a champion too.
Yeah, and to stick in the same sport, on today's Daily Dive, I took the other angle about with the Chiefs Eagles. I said the Chiefs were back-to-back champs, were dominating like the Bandits are right now. Well, I'm like, the Chiefs were like where the Bandits are in the middle part of the season. Like they're skating by, the results are there, but you're like, does it feel right? And then they get smacked by the Eagles in the Super Bowl when it matters most. And I don't think it's going to happen to Buffalo this year. But was this what the Bandits needed? I think even if they don't even admit it, they know deep down it helps. In some weird human way, it helped them getting this kick. And like I said, it was a close game. But fourth quarter, that punch in the gut was awesome, low key.
Since we've got Pat Gregor watching, Pat, if you're able to comment, I would like to get your thoughts on the NLL trade deadline. I know we've already talked about the Rock trades with Mitch DeSnew and another player to the Philadelphia Wings. But Pat, I would like to get your thoughts on the Bandits adding a couple guys today and Christian DeBlanco going to Vancouver. So there were some moves around the National Lacrosse League today at the deadline. One thing I wanted to ask you, Michael, too. The deadline is at 3:00, but trades can still be announced after 3:00 deadline.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if this happened like this on purpose, but it felt like the league was trying to finalize the trades, and then I think by 3:00, like Adam Levy said, they have to be submitted Eastern time, but it's like they were probably like getting confirmed, and I don't think the league had a problem with waiting until it happened. Like I said, the league knew, the whole league, NLL and their media and fans knew for months that Del Bianco was going to Vancouver. It was like, oh, it happens at the deadline. Give me a break. Listen, I'm not mad. I'm not saying it was programmed like that. But like I said, if I'm the NLL, why would I not wait till 3:00 to finalize these puppies? It makes for a Twitter hellstorm. I loved it.
How do you feel about the trade deadline being on March 10th? Obviously, there's still, 6 or 7 games to the playoffs. Do you feel they should move it back, or do you feel it should be sooner, or do you feel where it is currently is fine?
That's a question I don't know why I've never thought of before, but let me see here. 18-game schedule. Let's just break this down real quick. 18-game schedule. Most teams have like you said, 6, 7 games left. So yeah. It's like the 66% mark. I think this is a good spot. Here's my only issue, and it might just be me complaining that like we're up against the NFL, because obviously on my timeline I even posted the Spider-Man meme where it's like Adam Schefter, Adam Levy on my timeline, like for both Adams pointing at each other, like, it's breaking news from Adam Schefter. I would like to see maybe not necessarily them change the week, but like change it to like the Sunday or whatever. Like make sure there's never, like maybe even like on a Tuesday, make sure whatever the NFL free agency is, make sure it's like right before or right after that. Because it was very weird seeing in real time, refreshing your feed, getting 10 NFL trades and getting 10, and I was loving it, but it was like kind of like we probably lost a little bit of thunder, even though we did gain a lot of traction regardless. So that's a good point. My only issue would be like just changing the specific day, not necessarily changing the week.
I would say push it back to March 1st. I would push it to March 1st.
Yeah, move it up to March 1st.
March 1st, yeah, March 1st. Call it March to May trade deadline, March 1st. And it would be nice to get this. Cool. It would also be nice to get some TV coverage of this trade deadline. Obviously not 8 hours like the NHL or the NFL, but I really would like to see like a National Lacrosse League trade deadline show as well, or even a live stream show.
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie. I thought about that today. I was tired, but obviously it's one of the things obviously not just me and doing Daily Dive, but like you would love to see the league do it too, because I know the league, they have NLL box out. Teddy Jenner and Pat Gregor did do a virtual draft, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is nothing I'm hearing, but speculating, I wouldn't be mad if Teddy and Pat next year with Ashley Docking, or if I would say Daily Dive could do it, but if NLL could do something, whether it's me or not, that might be pretty cool. Because like I said, we already did the draft. Why not suppose a Zoom or a StreamYard studio for the trade deadline? Wouldn't be a worst thing in the world.
And then to me, it's a pretty big deal, and it gets the league more exposure as well. So going forward, hopefully next year they can do something with this trade deadline.
Agreed. Yeah, and sometimes the only issue is, again, there's also only 14 teams. And now CBA might help that with the money. I know prior to the show we were talking backstage, and I briefly mentioned the CBA. If the players do get more money, it would make it a lot more interesting next year, because then it's like, does location matter as much? Can we move these puppies around more than we did before? I know, I think, what was it, as soon as last year we didn't have a great one. But I feel like that, again, sometimes that's geographical stuff going on. I believe the Elliot Frickman, that's why he was going about on Twitter this week or the last few weeks. He was saying that supposedly, according to him, and he broke some pretty good news this trade deadline. He was saying that Brad Cree to Halifax was like basically ready to go, but Brad Cree couldn't commit to playing all the games or something along those nature. I'm like, if Brad Cree had more money, would he be able to? CBA might help that next year, so that could be also something we wait for.
I should have asked Pat this, or maybe yourself. What does an average lacrosse player make on per? Do they get paid per year contract, or do they get paid per game they play?
It might be different for each person, but I would assume it's like for the year. But I don't know the actual average, and I've heard like numbers about it before. Like, to put it this way, I've heard that, like, obviously I reported this a couple of years ago or a year ago, that Dane Smith's contract was $100,000 for like his thing, but it was like he was like a high standard. So it puts in perspective what the lower end guys might make, because who knows if Brad Cree or, let's say, James Barclay, or let's say a non-Joe side team, who knows what other guys are making? What are the Georgia Swarm players making? Are they making hopefully $50,000? Maybe not. I would hope so. But if you got to work a second job, you can't be making that much.
And that's going to be hard too with these trade deadlines too, because these players have families and that too, and it's not as easy as people think trading these guys.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody at the Georgia Swarm game and just asking them about like certain players who live in the area and who don't. You'd be surprised. I'm sure Buffalo has the same thing, even though they have it a little bit easier because it's a Northeastern team. Like, the Georgia team doesn't have the stars you would think living in the area, which is kind of frustrating. It's like, our home games should be comfortable for us. And, like, remember the Callum Crawford thing? I could have sworn he went to Albany, and we don't even see the guy. And again, it's not his fault, but it's like, it's so frustrating as a fan knowing Albany's got Callum Crawford in their back pocket right now, and they just can't use it.
And I know with the Buffalo Bandits, a lot of the players either live in Western New York or in Buffalo, or they're in Ontario. So exactly. It is like a true home game. And I have to ask you this, Michael. The game of lacrosse, indoor lacrosse, can it succeed in the state of Georgia long term?
That's actually, I'm glad you asked me that. I was talking to the owner of 12 Ounce Sports earlier, the Gamble guy, I'll call him. I was telling him, like, because he lives in Ohio. There's no team in Ohio. And I was telling him, like, as a person who literally had no idea the Swarm won a championship in 2017. I had no idea until a few years ago. I was mad about that. It blew my mind, the amount of kids that were from the area at the game this weekend. And I say that because I asked quite a few of them, are you from this area? And they said, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Because I noticed the Georgia Swarm attendance numbers. Now, this year they haven't been super impressive, but it's like they're still getting more than like the Albanys. They're getting more than Rochester. Feels like they get more than Las Vegas. And you're like, why is that? And then you go to the game, and you're like, oh, they're bringing in kids from all over the place. Like, these kids, not just the lacrosse sticks that are this long, actual lacrosse sticks on a 12-year-old. Oh my God, it was amazing. So it put more faith for me this weekend going to that Swarm game, realizing that's why it might be working. Because even Brett Dobson coaches up Kai, the goalie who I had on my show, a 12-year-old. It was like, oh, so they're actually on the ground. And I think that was the most pleasantly surprising thing I learned, because it's why Georgia might be succeeding right now. Even though they probably are losing money, it's better than what other teams, even in the freaking Northeast, are doing, and that's impressive.
What are your thoughts on the unified standings, and do you feel the National Lacrosse League can expand in the next year or two?
So expand in the next year or two. I'll do that one first. My guess is, could they? That to me, I don't know how many sponsors they have to get, but I know we've heard Brett Frude say, like, be very transparent, which I love. He has said on some shows before, like, I want to make sure we're doing what we can with our franchises right now, because I think Panther City folding was something they might have expected, but it was still a shock. It was like the Buffalo Bandits expected to lose, but it still punched them in the gut. It's like it wasn't supposed to happen. So when that dump, so if, like, I've always said, if they can get a sponsor, like, not a Coca-Cola, but like a sponsor that's like an Eero but has a little bit more clout than Eero, that might accelerate the process. But I would say for that, I would hope it's in 2 years, but I would not count on that personally unless some owner just went crazy on us, like some investor, which would be great. As for the unified standings, I don't think that gets talked about enough, and I'm glad you asked about it, because I think it's been amazing. For a 14-team league, having teams have to go east-west is amazing consistently. One thing I don't like about unified standings is we still have the teams that, like, 1 week we're in Buffalo, the next week we're in Calgary, and these guys still have, like, day jobs. Like, that's a little bit frustrating. Like, I know you're at the mercy of the arena sometimes, but it seems to me with those two arenas and those two fan bases, you can kind of spread that out a little bit more. I'm not a fan of that right now, but I think unified standings has been awesome. But expansion, last said, it would be great, but it has to be some money coming from somewhere.
What are your thoughts overall on National Lacrosse League Commissioner Brett Frude? And do you feel this league is heading in the right direction with exposure in the States and Canada?
In Canada, I think the TSN thing that they keep on doing is amazing. In the United States, I think even he will admit that it's tough because it's still not as good. But what really, I think Brett Frude, I've said this from day one when I looked up who he was. He's a NASCAR. Like he helped build Stewart Haas Racing, like Tony Stewart's racing team a few years ago. And NASCAR has been doing good with promos, etc. They actually they have a pretty good fan base, according to Front Office Sports that released an article recently. So he knows this thing about building stuff. Another thing about that, in terms of the state, like United States exposure, it's up in some weeks I'm really happy about, and some weeks I'm not. Like this past weekend, as a person who grew up watching SportsCenter, which is obviously not TSN SportsCenter, watching ESPN SportsCenter, seeing the fact that they gave Teddy Jenner 2 different audio clips of his goal call on Tom Schreiber was a huge step that I don't think people realize. Is SportsCenter as good as it used to be? No. But was that something I wouldn't have guessed would be suddenly coming from this weekend? No. And that was awesome. Like, they clearly are getting into the ears of ESPN United States a little bit. And I think that could be a huge step forward. Because, yeah, would I like to see the league on YouTube for free? Yeah. But would I also love a TV deal to reach that much more people naturally? 1,000%. Like, the free deal is nice if we don't have any money. But if we have the chance to get ESPN in our back pocket in the United States, it's over and the league's taking off. It's going to take off. So I like Brett Frude. He says the right things. He's also very transparent. I think that's a key. He's also not rushing to expansion, and I think that is a very important thing.
Michael, when did you develop an interest in the game of lacrosse and started up your Daily Dive podcast?
This is a heck of a story. Bear with me here. In 2016, so I would have been 20 years old. No, yeah, 20 years old or so. Yeah, I would have been 21 years old. I was told about this little thing called podcasting because I love talking sports. So I tried to talk NBA, NFL. It was okay. In 2021-ish / 2022, someone approached me about doing a lacrosse show. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, because I had personally seen highlight reels on YouTube, but never really looked at it past that. Never really cared to. Didn't know it was on ESPN Plus coming up. When this individual asked me to do this, I was like, oh, that sounds pretty good. But I wasn't a believer in the podcast. I was more of a believer in the National Lacrosse League because I knew I had watched it. I'm like, this is not a bad league. So in 2022 is when I believe season 1 happened. And that's when I took off. And of course, everyone knew me for breaking news. Like, how's this kid getting this news? And I'll leave obviously that part alone, as you probably know as a reporter, as a media person yourself. But I will say, it has been one of the coolest things for me because I actually 1000% am in love with box lacrosse. But it's also special seeing how many fans really are craving this type of content, like the video content of this talking about the league. I cannot explain to you how cool it is. I've gotten way more loyal viewers and listeners than I did with my other regular sports shows. Because everyone already knows you can go to ESPN and Fox for those. You can't go to those places for NLL. And so I love being the voice. Even if I piss people off, it's fun to create that conversation. But yeah, 2022 is the official lacrosse date for me. And 2016 was the podcast, but 2022 was definitely, and I've been locked in ever since.
For me, the podcast started in 2020 during the pandemic, and for me to get into the National Lacrosse League, Pat Gregor came on my show. John Gerkler, who's the longtime voice of the Buffalo Bandits, came on my show, and they told me, come on out to a game. John would get me a media pass. I even went to a Rock game in Hamilton. I can't remember who they played, and I'm like, I can't believe I never followed the sport.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's like hockey, basketball, and a little bit of football. And to be honest,
they had a baby, yeah.
Yep. And the last couple of years, I've been watching more lacrosse than hockey at this point of this time of the year. I just really like the sport. And I cover the CFL here in Canada too, the Canadian Football League, and they have an 18-game schedule, and it's very similar, different sports, but both leagues have given me a chance to do media work and to interview coaches and players, and it's a fan-friendly league, and I would like to see both of these leagues continue to grow because I think it's a great product and more people need to get exposed to it. Just like the Canadian Football League. Just because it's Canadian Football League doesn't mean it's bad. It's a different game than the NFL. And the National Lacrosse League, it's just been a great league. And and you know this too, Michael. I've had a lot of guests from the league and opportunities from teams like the Buffalo Bandits who gave me a shot.
Yeah, I couldn't express to you how cool it was. The player you may not even know exists, but Jake Fox was one of the first players I interviewed before I even had Daily Dive, and he had scored a SportsCenter top 10 goal. I was like, oh, that was awesome. And then Callum Crawford has given me 3 or 4 chances. I'm like, you should not be giving me a chance, but you're so kind. I think another one that was early on for me. I'm trying to think there's some other. Oh yeah, Andy Towers of the Chaos in the PLL. It's these guys are too amazing at what they do to give guys like me and you a chance. Not saying we're not committed, but it's you guys should be making millions. But I'm also low key kind of happy it's happened like this. But it's also once you see it, it's how is this not a thing? How have I lucked into this league? Like I say, it's bittersweet on both. It's bittersweet, as I'm sure it is for you. It's almost not there. Everywhere should be Buffalo, and they're not, and that's what's frustrating. But I'm happy to be here. I'm not gonna lie.
Michael, for those people that are watching this live stream or on audio, and they don't know much about lacrosse, can you just explain the difference between box lacrosse and field lacrosse to my audience?
God, I love that you asked that question. I'm going to tell you why. Listen, I am maybe if a person's watching this and they've seen lacrosse before, I know what they're thinking about. They're thinking about what I thought about when I was a teenager. Oh yeah, this college lacrosse is kind of cool. You know, the stick is kind of cool. They do a lot of fun things. It's a fast sport. And okay, awesome. We've seen the PLL. Okay, cool. When you see the box lacrosse, It's like everything you want in sports in one thing. Because football, to me, can be slow. It can be. There's a reason they can show 5 replays of the same play every time they are ready to snap the ball. Basketball can be slowed down with the free throws. And hockey, I keep saying, I said it before Skip Bayless did. I said it's weird seeing the puck get lost a million times. I was saying it's not a fun sport, but that kind of frustrated me. This thing took the quarterbacks of the NFL, like the Dane Smiths, who slow it down. It took the fast up and down pace of basketball. It took the physicality in the arena, crowd feel of hockey, and slammed it all into one beautiful sport. I can't explain it. But if I could, that's what I would tell people. You have no idea what you're missing, and it's the same on TV or the game. I've gone to 2 games in my life now. It's the same, both parts. Like, they both have, like, there's fun, energetic, fan-friendly, entertaining. It's not like every person who's ever said, I watched Lacrosse, you have not. I promise you, you're going to be like me, like, it's not fair what you're missing right now. It's really not.
And compared to the other major league sports, it's affordable. You can actually bring your family to a game and not have to worry about spending $1,000 either.
Yeah, and like sometimes I think like some arenas are harder to get to than others, but I know I'm not an alcoholic guy, but I don't like to drink alcohol because I'm just not a fan of the taste. I was watching the Morning Shoot Around podcast with Del Bianco, Tino Farah, and Tyler Pace, and Tyler Pace was saying in Vancouver, because I'm sure people in Vancouver might listen sometimes. In Vancouver, Tyler Pace was saying you can go to a game at like 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, get a $5 beer, and then finish your Saturday night in the town. Like, you can't beat it. For those that are into that lifestyle, you can't beat it. But the best part is that the fan atmosphere is like it's not stupid. It's like, even in Buffalo, I've seen the groups sometimes get fired up. They're like such a level-headed, like they can be level-headed. Like, I feel like at the game, you're not going to see a bunch of fist fights like you would in an NFL game. It's not that crowd. They encourage
families.
They encourage family. Yeah. And while the sport can be hell, it's also not like, mano a mano, I want to kill. Like, that's not what we're doing here. We're having fun. And that's amazing to me.
And I see husbands and wives and families bringing their young kids there, and everybody, and there's no political stuff. It's basically the love of the game, and the Bandits do a great job. And last Saturday night after the game, for fans that were 21 and over, they could meet the team and get pictures and autographs with the team at the local casino. Obviously, the younger. It was great for the 20-1 and over crowd. Unfortunately, the younger crowd couldn't go, but it's still the Buffalo Bandits. I can't speak for the other teams in the league. Do a great job with community engagement, and everybody talks about the Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres, Buffalo Bisons.
Yeah, you're the common losers. That's what I'm saying.
The Buffalo Bandits, to me, are just as big to Buffalo as the Bills are. Like, I'm not disrespecting Bills Mafia, but the Buffalo Bandits have been around for 32 years, 6 world championships, and they've had great players like Rich Kilgore, John Tavares, Dane Smith, who I think is the Mario Lemieux of the National Lacrosse League. This guy can score goals like Mario Lemieux did when he played hockey, but Dane Smith gets more satisfaction out of being a playmaker, setting up his teammates, and he makes all his teammates better, and that's what makes Dane Smith so special. And the Buffalo community, Western New York community, loves the Bandits, and to me, the Bandits, everybody talks about Buffalo being a losing sports town. The Buffalo Bandits, 6 championships since 1992, and John Gerkler has been their voice since 2004, and Chris Swanson, if you go to Banditland, Chris Swanson, or Swinney they call him, he's been their public address announcer since 1992 when they started out in their first year. He is a legend, and to me, that's somebody that you should get on your show, Michael, is Chris Swanson. Honestly, he has so many stories he could tell you from his 32 years with the Bandits organization.
That's awesome. Yeah, in terms of, like, you mentioned, like, Buffalo growing the audience, like, it's still, amazing to me seeing how some Buffalo Bills fans online still don't know who the Bandits are. It shows you if that amount of people have already bought in that they can have 2 sellouts this year. Can you imagine what it's going to be like 5-10 years from now? These people, I'm telling you, they're going to be very happy they found this league when they did, because at that point it's going to explode. And I'm just waiting for everywhere to be like Buffalo, and then it's like, oh yeah, we made it. And we're going to be happy that Buffalo's existed to show us, because if Buffalo didn't exist, would we see the potential of this league? You know? But we know our eye test is telling us this is stinking awesome. But when we see Bandit Lane take it to that other level, it's like, oh, come on. Come on, dude.
There's one other team in the league that's having a down year that needs to get back up, and this team makes the league better when they're good, and that's the Toronto Rock. So hopefully going the rest of this year, they can be a spoiler, and then next year as well, because the best rivalry in the National Lacrosse League is the Toronto Rock and the Buffalo Bandits. And Michael, if you've never seen both these teams play together, you need to do that in the future, because the Rock and the Bandits have just as big a rivalry as the Leafs and the Sabres do in the National Hockey League.
I've said on my show, Toronto Rock and Buffalo Bandits, it's the equivalent to Red Sox Yankees, Dodgers Giants. Let's see here.
Dallas
Colts,
and
Patriots,
Philly.
Packers Bears, you know?
Yep.
It's like that stuff right there. Or like Celtics Lakers. That, you know why? Because the Rock are also, now they haven't been able to get over this iteration of the Bandits, but the Rock had like 5 or 6 championships themselves. So that makes it even more impressive. It's like Celtics and Lakers going at it every year. And they're both good every year. Like, there's no team hopping. There's just like, we're here. We don't like you. You don't like us. In the confines of that battlefield, it's impressive. But yeah, I agree. Toronto Buffalo is amazing. That's special. Also,
hey, Michael,
go ahead. One more thing I want to mention, just real quick, is Toronto. I hate it for them that they're like, this is like their 3rd different arena in like the last 3 years. Like, come on, man. I forgot like what the reason is off the top of my head, but it's like, I hope they can get back to that staple of a home arena, because I think they're going to start selling out crowds too. I wouldn't be surprised, but go ahead.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they had to leave the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, the home of the Leafs, because the rent was too high there. And Toronto's got the Raptors, the Leafs, the Argonauts, the FC. There's so much there. And I said this to Pat Gregor, and you guys can quote me on this a few years ago. Moving the team to Hamilton and calling themselves the Toronto Rock in Hamilton, I thought was a bad idea. But Hamilton has supported the team well. The reason they're not in Hamilton this year is because they are gutting and renovating a 40-year-old arena. So they had to move to Mississauga, which is a suburb of Toronto, and they're playing in a I think a 6,000 seat Ontario Hockey League arena. So I think they're doing well there, and I believe next year they'll be back in Hamilton. And I admit I was wrong. I thought it was stupid to call them the Toronto Rock, playing in a city called Hamilton. And you know what? It really hasn't been a big deal. And I do believe once they're back in Hamilton and that new updated arena, I'm sure they'll be getting 10, 12, 13, 14,000 fans, because there is a passion for the Toronto Rock in this area.
New Jersey Giants, New Jersey Jets. Oh, wait, I mean New York.
Good point there. Hey, before we wrap this up, Michael, what have been some of your most memorable episodes and guests on the Daily Dive podcast? And how often do you record an episode? And where can my audience follow you, find your shows?
I appreciate that. So I'm going to go with the episodes part first. We have this thing called Fresh Fits. Every Tuesday, I'll just tease the schedule like that. But there was this one episode where I called Tyson Bell homeless casual on Twitter. Is the Fresh Fits, like where I break down the player walk-ins, like their styles. Because obviously I couldn't wear those things, but they make it look awesome. So I just kind of choose the best one. Seeing him get fired up and then having him on the show like a few months later was amazing. I got to interview a rookie Brett Dobson and rookie Jonathan Donville, so that was something I'll never forget. Callum Crawford, Andy Towers, 2 pure lacrosse guys, have been on the show multiple times. That's really fun to me. Every Friday I got guys like Pat Gregor and Adam Levy, who take time out of their day. And as you know, Pat's a gem, and obviously so is Adam. So that's no surprise there. But it's like, wow, I should not be allowed to do this right now. But they can find the show on 12 Ounce Sports. That's 12ozsports.com. Or go to like the YouTube channel. It's the easiest way to watch. Kind of like we're on right now. Like YouTube is amazing. It's just like super easy to use. Like I said, 12 Ounce Sports, Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern. It's a grind, as I'm sure you know, doing shows. It's a grind getting topics and sometimes pulling things out of your butt because the league sometimes doesn't give you a trade deadline. But it's like, it's a fun thing. I think I give hot takes, but I don't try to. But that gets people riled up. But yeah, Daily Dive on 12 Ounce Sports, Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern. It's a ride for sure.
What's a fun fact about yourself and a fun fact about the game of lacrosse?
For myself, is that NASCAR was my first sport I fell in love with. I literally have a little die-cast Jeff Gordon car right here in my little basket. But I was a big NASCAR fan growing up before anything. And then like that was my sports birth. And then I finally just took off everything else. Fun fact about the game of lacrosse, maybe I'll involve me in that too, is that I'm going to say that the Saskatchewan Rush are like they don't usually win in Georgia. But the first game I went to, like the first of 2 games I ever went to, like both games have been Rush Swarm. The first game the Rush actually won. No, the second game the Rush actually won. First game the Swarm won. So it's weird that both games I've ever seen are Rush Swarm. But fun fact, Chris, April 19th, I'll say it on your show, first time I'm saying it publicly. April 19th, guess who comes to town?
The Buffalo Bandits.
And you know what's funny about that? And I'm not calling it out, but Matt Vince happens to be 40-something years old.
42.
That might be his last regular season game if he hangs him up. So I would be in town for that. I'm not counting on, but I kind of know at the same time, like, this would be kind of a fun ride for me. I'd love to see the go, but yeah, that's yeah.
He's the Tom Brady of National Lacrosse League goalies, and he didn't even start out as a goalie. I guess he was a forward or a defenseman, and then he transitioned to a goalie. So Matt Vince, he is everybody I talked to said this guy is like the Tom Brady of the National Lacrosse League. And even interviewing him in the post game, he handles himself as a professional. And when you look at him, he doesn't look like he's 42. He takes good care of his body and his mindset. And you know what? He doesn't let things bother him. And I really feel this Saturday night's game against Calgary, I think he's going to come up with a big performance for his team, because I've never seen Vince struggle or have two bad games in a row. Yeah, so I really feel he'll come out strong, and he loves the game. He's passionate, and all these guys you talk to or I've talked to with media, they love the game and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to that game on Saturday at 9 o'clock, and to me that should be the TSN game of the week in my opinion. But they do a lot of their games on Friday. They did one on Saturday in Buffalo, but I would love to see that. But being here in Canada, I can watch it live stream on NLL Plus, and I guess in the States it's ESPN Plus. Yes, and I love it. If I can't be at a game, I like spending my 2 hours watching lacrosse. That's another thing too, Michael. You're not spending 4 or 5 hours tied up watching football or a baseball game. These lacrosse games are about 2.5 hours or less at the max.
The game I was at was logged at 2 hours, 8 minutes, I think, and it's like, it feels like in the moment, it feels like I said, the 4-minute referee delay had me going crazy. But like, it's so quick. It's like, oh, it's over now. It's almost sad. Low key topic for another day. I wouldn't be mad if the game had a little bit more face-offs just to slow it down. Because in person, it's a little bit too fast. But I'm also not mad because I still love the sport regardless.
And what I love about it is they make it a party atmosphere, especially in Buffalo. They've got the music playing the whole time. The PA announcer, Chris Swinney, who you need to have on your show, he does such a great job engaging the crowd, getting them fired up, and getting their chants in to the box. They have the box when the visiting
Yeah.
team gets a penalty. They do just such a great job, and I'm just hoping this league can continue to succeed.
Oh, the sweet Caroline. That's like a third quarter tradition with the Swarm. So
Swarm,
I gotta do
okay,
that one because that
definitely.
was pretty fun. That's a fun little tradition they do. Like I love Neil Diamond.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? And I really do like the music being played during the game. I really do. It just adds to it.
Yeah, like, and I'm gonna tell you this why, like, real quick about because, to be fair, a local person, I believe it was Ty Mara who first did this. He like there was a game this year in Georgia where like it was a horrible snowstorm, especially in that Atlanta area. And what sucked about it is not a lot of people could come, and I don't think the music people could too. So there was no music at the game. He was saying, "Oh, this is pretty great." I'm like, "Nope, it's not. I need music. Gotta have it." And it's not because like the game is not awesome, it's because I'm like this, like doom, 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 doom. I'm like, oh, I know that song. Like it's just fun. Like, and sometimes like Baby Shark in Colorado, that's a horrible song, but it gets those people fired up, man. Come on, music works.
Absolutely. And before we wrap this up, Michael, where can my where can my audience follow you on social media, your website, and the best way of contacting you and your next show coming up?
Daily Dive LAX, because and my personal is gonna be like Michael Karvelis. How do you spell that? So yeah, Daily Dive LAX is the easiest one, and plus I low key have a social media person that helps me a lot with that too. So you can say, hey Michael, this guy reached out to you. And then of course tomorrow 1:00 Eastern we'll be back, same time, same place, 12 on Sports. It's no big deal.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time tonight, coming on my 507th show. You have an open invite to come back on again. In one league I need to learn more about is the PLL, the Professional Lacrosse League. That's something I would like to bring a guest on in the future and talk about that as well.
I'm not a tattoos guy, but I'll have 507 tattooed on me now. I'm happy. I just
507. Guess who in my 500s guess who my 500s guess was?
Who? Sweeney?
Close. He's been on my show a couple times. Pat Gregor. He's been on 10 times. 10 times. Pat's been on 10 times. So I met Pat. You want to know how I met Pat? I met him on a bus trip 6 years ago going to Green Bay, Eagles and Packers at Lambeau Field. He was working for Elite Sports Tours, and I was going there as a fan. And you guess who was? And when I started this podcast show 5 years ago, I was on Instagram Live. It wasn't very good. I had no guests, no nothing. Pat would watch me, and then Pat would give me some feedback, and he kept believing in me, and I kept working at it. And Pat's been one of my biggest supporters of doing this, and he's put me in touch with the league, John Gerkler, Bud Bailey, and a number of people. And I would have met you through Pat Gregor. So he's had an impact on my media career as well.
Listen, man, there's people like Pat Gregor around the NLL that deserve so much more. I'm not saying the NLL cannot be this, but it's like they deserve so much more than probably what they're making with the league. It's like it's amazing. Like people like Pat deserve everything that comes to them good in life. So yeah.
Well, Michael, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to say thank you so much again. Continued success on the Daily Dive and your other shows. And you have an open invite to come back on again. And thank you for having me on your show a year and a half ago with Renee Washington as well.
I gotta do better with that, man. We gotta get you back on because I didn't get a chance to interview you. So we'll have to bring you back on for sure.
Yes, Renee, I think, did most of that talking, and she's had quite a media career too now.
National Lacrosse League involved in there too.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Michael, give me a little bit of time tonight. I will send you the video, the audio, and I'll break this up into some reels and clips for you if you wish to put it into your social media as well.
I feel like we did pretty good. Maybe I can do that. We'll see.
And I'm really looking forward to this week's games as well. And just let me know when you're ever in Buffalo or in Hamilton for a game, and it'd be nice to meet up with you.
It's going to happen one day.
Deal. All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Have a great night and keep watching lacrosse. It's a great sport.
Woo!
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that concludes season 10, episode 12, overall 507 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph. I want to say thank you to my guest, Michael Karvelis, for coming on here today from the Daily Dive. Please follow him on social media and also his Daily Dive Indoor Lacrosse podcast as well. Before I wrap up this show, guys, I was at the Bandits game against Calgary, and I was able to speak to Kyle Buchanan in the media press conference at the end of the game. And I'm going to play that interview right now, courtesy of my YouTube channel. Please make sure you subscribe and hit like to Chris Palme Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Here's Kyle Buchanan speaking to the local media and myself after the Bandits lost to Calgary. Kyle had 2 goals, 2 assists in this game against Calgary.
It's one of those nights when everything just seemed to not come easily, if you know the feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been probably a handful of games now where things are sort of creeping away on us, and then we're able to find a way late in the game, third or fourth quarter. Yeah, it's not for lack of chances. Myself, I had 2 or 3 in the first quarter. Those go in. I think it's a different game. We kind of get a momentum rolling. So, yeah, I think we take it on the offense. 11 goals is not what we expect. So, hopefully we're better next time out.
I know you've been looking at Nick Rose for years and know him intimately, and he knows the Bandits really well. Was it kind of funny just to look out and see him in a Calgary uniform?
Yeah, certainly different, for sure. Again, like you said, we know how he plays. I think it's a bit of an adjustment playing with a different defense in front of you as well. I don't know if we adjusted really well to that. We need to swing the ball more, keep it moving, and then when he comes out on outside shots, he's our backdoor opportunity. So different seeing him for sure, but again, we know what to expect, so that's not an excuse.
How hard is it? So we happened a couple times tonight where you score, gets waved off, and Calgary comes back and scores before they throw a challenge flag, or even if they decide to. What is that like on the bench?
Definitely is a momentum killer, right? Again, it happens to other teams. Just tonight, it was us. It seemed to happen almost like 3-4 times in a row. So it's obviously difficult because it's kind of like a 2-goal swing, right? You get one and then, maybe not, and it goes the other way and they score right away. Yeah, it's not ideal, but again, I think we got to do a better job probably on the faceoffs, getting balls back as well when we do score, and repossessions as well. So there's a lot of things that contribute to the loss. It wasn't just that, but if those go our way, then maybe the bounces are different.
I'm sure.
Going off of that, on the same topic, that goal you scored where you're essentially on the ground when you got to Nick Rose's legs, were you kind of surprised when you looked up and goal buzzer was going off and then eventually gets called off?
Yeah, I just kind of got tangled. I kind of got turned around a little bit, and when I caught it and scored, I didn't really think I was going to hit the crease because I knew my feet were out, but I think my glove was touching down there, so I was a little bit surprised. But when you saw the replay, it was kind of pretty bang, and the glove was down. So it is what it is. But again, those bounces weren't going our way tonight, and I think we need to earn those a little bit, right? Those sort of like karma type of thing where we got to earn those a bit more.
Kind of one of those goals where it's cool enough where it should count anyway.
Maybe.
Something about veterans who can score. Curtis Dixon gets 6. It seems like he's been doing that forever. Anything jump out and what makes him such a valuable player for now and in the past, forever?
He's got really good feet. He's able to get himself open. He doesn't need a lot of space. He can also shoot a bunch of different ways. I play with him in the summertime a little bit as well. He's good with the ball. He's good without the ball. Obviously, it's always had a long career and a lot of goals. Again, we know what he does. It's hard to guard him, but hopefully we have a better game plan moving forward. We don't want him getting 6.
Kyle, how much of a difference does it makes Calgary have with Nick Rose in net, a veteran goalie presence?
Yeah, probably calms them down a little bit, or maybe changes their strategy. I think gives them kind of a 1-2, 1A, 1B, maybe a little bit how they were feeling and some depth there. Again, I didn't notice a big adjustment. We kind of know how they sort of pack it in. Reminded me a little bit of Colorado, how they kind of pack it in and let their goalie come out and play angles like Dylan Moore does. So again, another team we're familiar with, so that's not an excuse. It's certainly something we need to look at moving forward into next week.
John was just saying how as teams go along in the season that they improve, and it seems like there's more and more parity as you're going on. That's obviously true of what the Bandits have done. There's a lot of other circumstances in it, but in a sense, everybody's getting better. There's no easy games.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, I think we lost a team last year, obviously, and not only that, teams are getting better just in general. The sport's just getting better, bigger, stronger, faster, more skill. So I think we can't take any team lightly. Obviously, that's pretty cliche, but if we take a little bit of a night off, we're getting everybody's best, right? We've won obviously twice in a row. We're sitting at the top of the standings, and we can't come in and be a little bit lackadaisical. Games are inches, right? 17, whatever the finish was. But to me, that was a closer game than that. It kind of got away from us late, and that's been the same story the last 4 games. We've just been on the winning side of it. So everyone's getting better. We need to just execute at a higher level.
I think everyone after the San Diego game said, well, we get to get them right away. Ditto, ditto, ditto.
Yeah, exact same story. And I said that to the guys in the room, and the message I said to is we've been winning, but not playing that good. And I think that's sort of a kiss of death. You kind of get comfortable in those routines and those kind of habits. And again, that's not going to get it done come the end of the year. And we're aware of that. So we got to figure that out pretty quickly here.
Kyle, thoughts on the power play tonight and what you can do to get it going for next week's game?
Yeah, our rhythm's been a little bit off from the power play, I think, throughout the year. We have so much skill up there. I feel like it should be coming easier. Maybe that's sort of how we've been playing it. I think a little bit more movement, a few more cuts to get defenses moving and changing matchups and things like that, or changing lanes. So that's something we need to work on moving forward, because the skill we have up front, I think our percentage should be higher.
Dame Smith, 400 goals. It's a pretty big number.
Yeah, I mean, that guy can play the game however he wants, right? He can play with the ball, he can play without it, play defense, stop transition. Obviously a tremendous player, and lucky to play with him. And we're going to keep leaning on the way forward.
You moved into the top 50 in all-time scoring as well tonight. You had a pretty good night despite the result. What were your thoughts on just your game tonight and reaching that accomplishment?
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool, obviously, to think about. It's not top of mind. I'd rather get the win and have bagels across the board, right? That's number one. Again, I think our offense is so good that I just try and create space, try and pick up loose balls, get resets, and get open. We draw so much attention with, looking at our right side, Dane, Chase, Dale, that I'm just trying to find space, and guys find me on the backside. So I'm fortunate to vary that kind of stuff.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Kyle.
Thank you, guys.
That clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel. Please hit subscribe and like. That was Kyle Buchanan, the hardworking forward for the Buffalo Bandits after the Bandits 17-11 loss to the Calgary Roughnecks at the KeyBank Center. And the Bandits are back in action this Saturday night, March 15th at 9 o'clock against the same Calgary Roughnecks team, this time at the Saddle Dome, the Scotiabank Saddle Dome in Calgary, Alberta. And I expect the 9-2 Bandits to bounce back with a much better performance for the entire team as well. But credit to Calgary, who came into this game at 6-6 and added Nick Rose, the former Rock goalie, and they came in and they punched out the Bandits. They just did a great job on their special teams, staying disciplined, and they capitalized on Buffalo miscues. So really looking forward to it. If you've never been to a National Lacrosse League game, check out the website, nll.com, or go to a game if you're in Ontario. The Toronto Rock are playing at the Paramount Fine Centre in Mississauga, Ontario this year until the First Ontario Centre next year in Hamilton will be ready for them. And the Buffalo Bandits are just across the border from Ontario. They play at the KeyBank Center, so you can get tickets at bandits.com. And if you want to go to a Bandits game, I advise you to get your tickets early, because the Bandits do sell out at Banditland, and it's a great experience as well. So Buffalo Bandits lacrosse, and looking forward to the rematch against Calgary this Saturday, March 15th at 9 o'clock. And the Bandits are going to have a couple new players in their lineup, including Ron John, a transition player they acquired from Ottawa. And they got another gentleman as well today in a trade from Vancouver. I think Kyle Metzi. I'll have to learn his name, but I know the Bandits added a couple players to their body, including Angola, New York native Ron John as well. So, and Sam LaRue was traded to Ottawa. Before we wrap up this show, guys, the next live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by, sponsored by BarryCullen.com, is going to be Tuesday, March the 11th. That's tomorrow, Tuesday, March 11th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Colleen James. She's a city councilor with the region of Waterloo, and she's involved with their development and infrastructure section as well. So Colleen James, a politician from the region of Waterloo, city councilor, will be my next guest on Live with CDP. Tuesday, March 11th at Tuesday, March 11th at 4:30 p.m. So please check out Colleen James, my next guest here on Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you have a unique, interesting story and you'd like to share it on Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, or my monthly show with Marlene Sharp called the Small Talk Podcast, you can email me at cpame19@gmail.com or DM me, as I would love to hear from you, especially if you have a unique, interesting story as well. And also, guys, this show is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and their Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Pame sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, it is truck month at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership. A 2025 Silverado LD Custom Trail Boss, 0% financing for up to 72 months. So that's a 2025 Silverado LD Custom Trail Boss truck, 0% for up to 72 months. More details at barrycullen.com. All right, guys, I'm also on a new social media site. You can follow me on bluesky.social at Live with CDP19. That's at Live with CDP19 on Blue Sky Social as well. As we wrap up this show, guys, if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals that are up for adoption, their profiles are on cambridgehumanesociety.org. And they're also doing a quarterly 50-50 draw as well. Half the money goes to the winner, half the money goes to the Cambridge District Humane Society as well. And if you're looking to volunteer like I do twice a week at the Cambridge District Humane Society, you can go on their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org, click on the volunteer application form and fill it out as well. So again, make sure you adopt and don't shop. You can't buy happiness, but you can adopt it, and only at the Cambridge and District Humane Society in Cambridge, Ontario. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And please make sure you follow and subscribe as well. You can check out my website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Pame for all my social media content as well. I am back on TikTok. Yes, guys, I lost my original 5-year TikTok page, so I had to create a new TikTok page from scratch. So I'm trying to get back my 2,800 followers. So check me out at Live with CDP or at Chris Pame for my new page. Make sure you hit follow, and I'm working hard on great content on TikTok and building up my followers back on TikTok. So at Chris Pame, or just type in Live with CDP on TikTok. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the audio versions on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. Remember to hit subscribe and to like on my audio platforms as well. Finally, you guys can email the show at Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. And if you'd like to contribute to my radio and media work, CDP Media Productions, I am on PayPal at cpame19@gmail.com. So PayPal, cpame19@gmail.com if you'd like to contribute towards my media work and my shows. And also, I am on Cameo. If you'd like a personalized video message from yours truly, CDP, go to cameo.com, type in Chris Pame, and book your Cameo today. And finally, guys, you can follow me on these social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn. I'm on everywhere except Snapchat. And please remember to subscribe and like my YouTube channel as well. And before we wrap this up, guys, I've got a comment here. And yeah, unfortunately, I can't read it. We'll leave it at that. But I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live streamed and on my audio platforms as well. And some Philadelphia Eagles news today, guys. Darius Slay is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Milton Williams, our big nose tackle, signed a big deal with the New England Patriots. Josh Sweat, our linebacker, went to the Arizona Cardinals. Isaiah Rogers, our cornerback, went to Minnesota. And Kenny Pickett was traded to the Cleveland Browns today. So I want to say thank you to those 5 guys who helped contribute a Super Bowl championship to Philadelphia last year. And I want to wish them all the best of luck. Unfortunately, football is a business and you can't keep the same team every year. And I have faith in Jeffrey Lowry and Howie Roseman that the Eagles team will be as good, if not better, next year as well. So Slay, Williams, Sweat, Rogers, and Kenny Pickett are no longer Philadelphia Eagles, and that is a part of the business in the game of the National Football League as well. And I want to say thank you again to my guest tonight, Michael Karvelis, the host of the Daily Dive podcast, for coming on. So if you're a fan of the game of lacrosse or the National Lacrosse League or sports in general, follow Michael on his social media pages and the Daily Dive podcast show as well. And that's about it. I hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 4:30 on Tuesday, March 11th, 4:30 with Colleen Janes, a city councilor with the region of Waterloo. Tune in.